what is actually the situation here is a complete question mark. There is just this outburst of this question mark of wow, basically, which we label as consciousness or reality or God, but there aren't any words for it. With this stuff, this thing called non-duality, you can't just integrate it into what you've learned previously as another belief. Okay, so all is God. I can get that. I can get that all is God. You know, philosophically, I can get that. But that is very different than coming directly from the knowing, non-intellectually, just absolutely as what you are in your isness, in your being, in your presence. So from that perspective, there's nothing to do whatsoever because you already are it. But then if you find yourself hearing these teachings, that really strongly doesn't feel like your experience, then there can actually be quote unquote work to do. And it's not work, it's more play, it's exploration. This is what life is. It's exploring itself, and it's exploring itself through you as you in your apparent confusion, your inability to see this as what it is, the frustration of hearing teachers talk about it and not getting it, and then the wanting to take that in as a new position. It's all of that. Life's exploring itself as all of that, so there's nothing wrong with it. But there's definitely a place for honesty, earnestness, integrity.
Definitely. There is a big difference between recognition and belief, between truth and what seems to be true. So, is your present experience an accurate representation of reality? In clarity, I can see that my thoughts, my feelings only represent what truly is, and clearly they're not able to capture what truly is. And then to delve beneath that stuff into the non-interpretive, the non-conceptual, the non-intellectual knowing. And it's a different kind of knowing. It's not a knowing that is the product of belief, of learning, of accumulated understanding. Be that knowing and meet what is here. We're always exploring ourselves through our present experience. Yet we get seemingly stuck on our present experience, believing that present experience, one, represents reality, and two, is what we are, because we identify with our experience. And all your beliefs are seen through, as seen to be only conceptual rather than a direct encounter. What remains is truth. And it's what was always here, even while the ego program was running. You're listening to the Nonduality podcast. This is Nic Higham from nisargayoga.com, and here with me is Paul Dobson.
So there's a temptation to hear all this stuff and take it in and not be completely honest with yourself as to where you are. You've understood maybe intellectually, but it's still a stance, it's still a belief, it's still an angle you're approaching reality from. And what this actually is approaching reality from no angle whatsoever, absolutely nakedly, and being absolutely honest with yourself. You are this. Of course, you're already this. You always have been. You always will be. Eternally cannot not be it. You literally are. It's literally what is listening to these words right now, is allowing the listening to even occur as a phenomena, allowing anything whatsoever, the literal life force that you are. That's what you are. It's what you are immediately in this moment. Boom, just exploding outwards as everything. But it is helpful, if that's not immediately obvious, to kind of cut it into parts perhaps and go, right, let's have a look at it. Gradually remove what's not true and see what is just here. Removing your ideas about what's occurring and being directly with what's occurring. And if you're just with what's here, then you are as what's here, because there's no longer a separation there. And that is, love is an overused word, and love has too many connotations to it. But that is the word. And you realize you are the love. And as the love, you aren't separate from what is perceived. It's too close. You can't separate it. And therefore, everything is seen as saturated by that love, because that is what is true. it can only ever be love. And you can even drop the label love if that doesn't work for you, because it is just what it is. It doesn't conform to any label. It just is what it is. And the nearest quality we can get to what that feels like when it's experienced as truth, as absolutely known, is love.
We need to begin with as much clarity as we can in this inquiry to temporarily disidentify or to objectify your experience. To get this, what feels like distance or space at that point, to recognize anything I experience cannot be me. Because I am experiencing it, because I'm aware of it, I must somehow be behind it, or the foundation, or the space, the capacity. I must somehow be prior to it. So I must be the hands. I can't be what I'm holding in present experience. This thing I'm holding in my capacity of awareness doesn't define me. It can't define me. When you delve into whatever you are holding, you only find yourself. You find just aliveness. You only find aliveness. Doesn't matter what it is. So the hands, so to speak, and the thing held are one. No difference, no separation, non-dual, or in other words, love. It's all known to be consciousness. The consciousness is the world. The world is consciousness. So it isn't enough just to be set apart from what you experience and just float around in some void like no thingness. You know, you've netted everything away and you have this temporary clarity there. But then it's sort of hijacked. I'll have that too. I'll have the clarity. But as you said right at the beginning, we have to be honest. Is there stuff that we're bypassing or that we haven't integrated, that is still bubbling around, that we're still on one level believe in to not be me, to be a problem? And if so, you have to keep going. You can't just say, I allow it. I love what's here. I love what's present, you know, in some spiritual sense. If you're still operating in the belief that what is here isn't loved and you're trying to love it, well, that goes against the whole point. You're just reinforcing that sense of it not being lovable, which is to say you're not lovable, because really it is you. It's a part of you.
Yeah. So you do the netty, and then you netty the netty. You know, there's nothing left. There's nothing left. There can't be anything left. And then what happens when there's no ideas, though? I mean, what then? That's what I want. That's where the juice is, isn't it? What's when there's like, you've just got this and you go, anything that comes up, any idea that comes up about what this is, what you are, any of it, what then? That you can't answer what this is. Now that's the place of exploration. That is where, as I've referred to in a previous episode, that feels like the changing of gears. You're coming out of like these mind ideas of what reality is, and you're functioning as reality. Like, you're always functioning as reality, of course. You can't not, because you are. But from this perspective, from this experiential standpoint, you're literally functioning as reality, in line with the truth of reality. There's no distortion there, you could say. You're not lying to yourself anymore. Your truth. You've dropped the facade.
Yeah, so whatever is left is what is most truthful. When all the beliefs, all the ideas, all of what even seemed factual is seen through as seen to be only a guess rather than a direct encounter, yeah, what remains is truth, absolute truth. And it's what was always here, even while the ego program was running. So what is the ego? As ever, we invite you to explore yourself. Don't simply listen to what we're saying and take these insights on as a new belief system. Don't listen as an ego. Listen as awareness. You are aware. So listen as awareness and inquire as awareness. Question, explore as awareness. You always are. You're always exploring yourself as awareness. And ask, what is this feeling of being a me apart from other me's? What is this? What is this ego? What you might find is this feeling of tension, and that tension or that tightness, that contraction feels personal. And also recognize that however this sense of a me is known, it's known through the same building blocks of experience as any other experience. The modes of experiencing. You, whatever you are, the hands holding this experience, are not at all affected by this experience. So you can't be the ego. You must be holding it with some hands that aren't it, that aren't characterized by what you hold.
This ego thing, it's a way of reality playing the manifestation game. And there needs to be some degree of belief in separation in order to play the game. And that's fine. That makes the game playable. But if you believe that that's all that is, that's suffering. That causes the desire and fear. You're looking for stuff outside of this ego thing, is looking for stuff outside of itself to try and fill this void, which can never be filled. It can never, ever be filled with stuff outside of yourself. It does not work. You may have some temporary relief, but it's not the same as actually coming to be that apparent void that you're trying to fill. You know, it's actually knowing yourself as that, because you find that the voidness is actually a plenum. It's a fullness. So in the way that you're trying to fill this ego, this void, the ego is trying to fill this void inside of itself, is actually concretizing this idea that there's such a void that needs filling. When actually the void is a plenum. If you could just turn around and look at the void and be as the void is spectacular. It's fantastic. I mean, it's amazing. It's literally what you are. But it's almost like its own intensity is too much. It's like looking directly at the sun. It's like, oh no, you know, it's kind of like that, isn't it? But if you were just to ease your way into it, like easing into a hot bath or something, into like a really warm bath, you come to see that the water's like perfect temperature there. There's nothing to be fearful there. In fact, the fears were only from the ego's point of view. You go, okay, oh, wait a minute, this is me. It's what I've always been, and I've been identifying with this thing. So it's just a little gentle exploration into whether that's true or not can reveal this. But I would like to underline the point that there's nothing to go to war with in reality. There's nothing to go to war with. The ego is just needs to be revealed as what it is, that's all. The funny thing about it is only an ego would ever say that an ego is wrong. So reality loves all of reality. Reality loves itself. It is totally intoxicated with itself. If anything, it's so in love with itself, it's totally forgotten itself, lost in its own intoxication of love.
Yeah. Have you ever got lost in some kind of activity, whether that's painting, mountain climbing, playing with your kids, meditating? And that's kind of what's happening now. God, life, reality is absorbed, totally absorbed in this present experience, to the point where God seems to lose God's self. Reality is so in love with the present moment activity, whatever that is, that's all there is. It's like becoming one with the mountain and forgetting who you are, forgetting the bigger picture. But you get lost because there's this deep enjoyment, deep connection with your object of attention. And in spiritual terms, we call that samadhi. So who's to say that this present moment, whether you're experiencing pain, whether you're experiencing yourself as being a person, whether you're experiencing complete oneness with yourself as reality, this is God in samadhi. Total engagement, total love, total embrace, and apparent forgetting of yourself. This present moment is appropriate. How can it not be? It's in reality and therefore is made of reality. Can you find something that isn't a part of life? Whatever you're experiencing right now can only be a part of your present moment experiencing. How can it not be part of your capacity of awareness? It must be sitting in it. It must be included in it. It's embraced. It's already embraced. It's already held. None of it is rejected. Your awareness is not saying no to anything. There might be thoughts that are saying no, but even those thoughts that are saying no are held in the same unconditional yes. Nothing is refused. Nothing is negated, really, because everything is held, and whatever is held can only be made of the same holding. It doesn't matter what it is. You explore deeply and you won't find something inert. You won't find something that isn't alive or isn't sentient. You just find pure sentience. Like that's all there is, just pure sentience of aliveness, of beingness.
Yeah. There's nothing but aliveness there. There's only the experience, and the experience has got all these qualities to it. It's not like your experience and ends at your hand and then comes to this dead object and then that's a dead thing, so don't worry about that. The rest is aliveness. Like, no, that aliveness doesn't end, and the aliveness doesn't come from your body. The aliveness is the flow of experience. You know, you think of something like a stone. Even if you've heard stuff like this and been involved in this kind of perspective on reality for a while and you meditate and all that sort of stuff, you still might have this subtle idea of something like a stone as some inert, dead thing. If we're going really honestly, directly with the exploration of reality in the way we've put it forth in all of these chats, is that go pick up a stone or even look at a stone, it doesn't matter. And there's no separation there. There's not two things. It's just the endless flow of experience. We have this idea that there's a looking at things from over here. There's this little idea of a subject looking at things, but you just look and then you just drop the label look and you just are, and the stone is, and there's no labels anywhere. And all there is this fluctuating experiential aliveness. No assumptions at this point. Just go straight to the direct experience of it. Really feel into it. It's like beyond intuition. It's just a directness. And the stone is alive. I mean, this idea that there's this person viewing the stone is the only thing that creates a dead stone or dead anything. I mean, I've got a computer mouse here. Like, that could be seen as a dead object. But if you view it as there's only experience in all of its different qualities. And who is the experiencer? There's not a who. And so that is only within human language that we would call it a who. But to itself, it just is.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Aliveness doesn't come from the body or the senses. Experiencing is not a product of the senses. If you look around at anything, even if you find something that seems to be absolutely uniform, solid, you'll see that there's a shimmering. You can see energy. There's always this sort of sparkly dance of aliveness. You can see that everywhere. You can see it. You could kind of conclude that, oh, what I'm seeing is like the body's energy. There must be like a wall and this sort of overlay of like this shimmering. But again, in direct experience, you can't separate the shimmering from the apparent thing you're looking at. You can't say that there is an external thing and this apparently internally generated visual display of energy. They are one in direct experience.
This is the thing, these very, very sneaky assumptions. If you start with the point where, okay, let's just play with the idea that this is all a dream, because I don't know for sure this isn't all a dream. I'm not saying it is a dream. It goes beyond all labels, all descriptions. I mean, it's a question mark as to what it is. And so if this is a dream, anything I look at is appearing within my dreaming mind. It is not an actual solid appearance of a separate object outside of me. It is, like you say, it's just this shimmering that kind of coagulates into these solid object looking things. And the funny thing is, in dreams, I used to explore lucid dreams quite a lot. The more you kind of believe that is a solid object, the more solid it appears. And what's to say that this isn't a different version of that? So you believe that that's a solid object, and you're telling it it's a solid object. It will appear to you as a solid object. When you do these explorations where you close your eyes, feel into your direct experience, you're not telling reality what it is. You're not telling objects that they're objects. You're not telling anything that it's anything. You just honestly are looking into your direct momentary isness of experience, this sentience that is here, and you're not telling it anything. You're not giving it anything. So, and then therefore that is utter honesty. Like, that is direct honesty. That's the most honest level you can approach your experience. And what is it then, though? I mean, it's quite clearly just these, like we said before, swirlings of I guess we could call consciousness. Whatever that is, though, that's to say I know what consciousness is. But let's not put any labels in it. Let's just stay with what's here, with no labels. Not assume any of the stuff we've been told. Not assume that there's eyes looking at something. Not assume there's a brain processing it all. Let's not assume any of that. I'm not saying that's wrong, but let's just drop that for now. And let's assume it's all wrong for now, just for the case of this exploration. And it starts to reveal itself in its obviousness that it wasn't ever those things. It wasn't our ideas about it. It wasn't the brain processing something. And you can't say why that's the case in an intellectual way. I can't sit around with a table of scientists and go, well, I can say it's like this because blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to get in a debate with anyone about this, but there's a knowing that takes charge. There's a knowing that kind of becomes the core element of all of your experience, where you know, and you can't say why you know. You can't necessarily put into words whatsoever why you know. You just know deeply that you don't believe in it anymore. The beliefs have dropped, and this mysterious knowing that doesn't have any basis in human context or human intellectualization or human ideas or concepts or anything you've learned throughout your life is there. And that's the knowing that you always were, the knowing that reality is timelessly. And that's kind of like the weirdness of this whole exploration, is that I can't say into words, I cannot put into a logical explanation why this is the case. I would not be able to have a debate with someone, a philosopher or anyone else, about what the whys of this. I can help them explore through their experience, but that's it. I can't argue with them. It doesn't need to be argued, because when it's known, it's known. It's like you know the sun is shining, you know the taste of chocolate, you know that you're alive. You don't need someone to tell you you're alive. You know, I'm experiencing now, I'm alive, I exist, I am. You don't need someone to go, well, actually, it's because of this and this and this, and these neurons are doing this and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, it's like, I am.
Yeah, go to what you know already. Explore from there. In a dream, there's nothing that isn't made of dream. Just as you can't separate the dream objects, the dream appearances from the dreaming space, the dream space itself. In the wakened state, you can't separate whatever is known from the knowing capacity. You can't separate the experiences from the experiencing space. There's just no way. There's no difference. The dreaming state, the awakened state, and the dreamless state, they're all one. They're all one. They're all different ways of knowing that one. The sense of separation in the awakened state seems so convincing so compelling until you explore it and you find that it's only made of experiencing. Just as if in a lucid dream, lucidly you go into anything you experience and there's different scenarios going on, different characters, and you go, oh yeah.
It is fascinating. Lucid dreams are fascinating to me, and they're really revealing, actually. So I remember when I used to explore them, I used to touch objects lucidly and just be like, this is, I mean, it literally feels like me touching this table right now. It would feel the exact same. And that is so revealing, I feel. I mean, it's all sensation. And what is sensation? Sensation can't be separated from experience. So therefore it's all experience. And then we can drop the word experience again. And this is why we keep coming back to these investigations of being directly with your experience, because it does reveal that you can explore your experience now, apparently here in the apparent physical world, and it will reveal the same sensory data, you could say, the same experiential data as a lucid dream reveals. Just because the laws are slightly different, perhaps in a lucid dream, you go, well, that's a dream and this is real. But when you, I could turn the table into like a car or something, there are differences. But when you go directly with your own experience, your direct experience, the feeling of it, the sensing of it, it's just a sparkling of vibratory mystery swirls of something which can't be described.
Yeah, it's just nothing but knowing. It seems like a mystery in one sense. In another sense, how can it be a mystery? Because it is pure knowing itself. There's only you, so anything that appears is you. So you are knowing yourself this way and this way and this way and this way and this way. You could say that the sense of a separate self, the ego, is in one sense like a distortion mechanism, a refracting mechanism. And I'm not sure who said it first, but you can say that it stands for edging God out, or you can say it's expressing God out. This is the expression, the outpouring. And so none of it is inappropriate. All of it is right. So it's this, it's this, it's this, it's this, it's this. This is what you are. All of it. So in recognizing that it's all you can't help but love yourself, or recognize that the love is already here. You were always in love with yourself, lost in yourself, but in another way, always finding yourself, never not home.